Hey everybody, Drew here. So as we navigate this unique COVID season, our kids are at home, we're expected to be homeschool parents, we're with our spouses, there's probably a lot of different stresses going on. So this week I decided to interview education expert Dr. Jeremiah Campbell for advice and tips on how we can better navigate this season with our families. Make sure to tune in and learn some good stuff today. Hey everybody, this is Drew, and today with me I have Jeremiah Campbell. He is a longtime friend, and we go way back. We were roommates together in a basement of a house of like 5 or 6 guys while we're all doing different things in our early 20s, and we had dreams of doing big and great things. And I'll let Jer in a few minutes tell you a little bit about his background. But today I invited him to this interview because he is an expert in education, and as most of us are navigating how to educate and homeschool our kids for the first time, I thought that maybe he might have some good tips for us and that we could learn from him and all that stuff. But before we jump into our interview with him, I'm sure that all of us are experiencing a lot of different things, and if you have any tips or things that you find that are working, make sure to share those down in the comments below, so that way we can learn from each other because we're a learning community. So with all that, Jer, hopefully you brought your coffee. I have mine. It's 5 a.m. in the morning for me. Where are you at? And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
So we live in Bolivia, and we get a question all the time. Where is that? Is that a city? Is that a country? So I love maps. So here's a map, one of my favorite maps. That's South America. We live like right there, right in the middle of South America. We live in a valley in the Andes Mountains in a town called Cochabamba. It's actually a city of about 1 million people, and we've been here for about 10 years and work here as an educator also. But so it's 8 a.m. for us. We're 3 hours ahead of you right now. Okay. And we're going into fall while you're going into spring. So we're so far away. We're in opposite seasons, which is kind of cool because we're below the equator. But yeah, I'm here with my wife. My wife and I, we've been married will be 15 years in July. We have 2 kids, Judah, who is 11 years old, and Michaela had a birthday yesterday, and she turned 6. And so she's excited about that. So we have two small kids, and we are in quarantine. Just like everybody else is in the States, except we're not allowed to leave our house, actually. So
wow.
We live in a third world country, and it's kind of crazy because it's like first world and third world meeting together. And so we can't, because it's so susceptible, we have 27 ventilators in the country, and we have about almost 1,000 cases of COVID. And so they're like, no, you will stay at home. If you don't, you're getting arrested, because it will cripple the whole country. So we have been trapped in our house.
Yeah, I've been going for bike rides and walks and runs, ruck marches, all that kind of stuff. So
I know, I've been watching you online, and I'm so jealous, and I'm we can't even go walking in our neighborhood, but I have been a little bit, just otherwise we're going to go insane. So if you feel trapped with your kids and you're having a hard time, we totally get it. We totally understand how that feels. So it's normal. But yeah, so we've been here. We're missionaries. And we've been here. We built some churches, but I also do training pastors. We've helped with some schools. It's called Child Hope. And it's basically, it's kind of like, if anybody's ever heard of Compassion International, it's basically they put schools in some of the poorest, most neediest areas, and you can sponsor kids, things like that. And then it allows those sponsored kids and those schools to be able to function where it's like an entire school system. It's meals, it's insurance for families, things like that. And so we're not in charge of that. We have some partners who are, but we've helped do some trainings for those teachers. But we're educators, my wife and I, and so we work with that, and then we also work with college students. And so that's kind of the majority of what we do down here. We've been doing that for the last 10 years.
Okay, so you hit on a little bit of your education background or background as an educator, but maybe tell us a little bit more. I know that you've been a school teacher up in Washington State. And correct me if I'm wrong, you still hold credentials, and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So my wife,
go ahead.
My wife and I, we're from Washington. I grew up on the Olympic Peninsula. My wife grew up west of Olympia. And she's an elementary educator, ESL teacher. She does dual language. We both speak Spanish. And then I was a high school Spanish teacher and an ESL teacher, and I was also a bilingual educator. I was an instructional coach. I taught other teachers how to work with ESL students. I taught in community college. I've taught bachelor's level, master's level, doctor level. I've taught literally every level of education there is. I've taught it. And then when I first started, I was a substitute teacher right after I did my student teaching. And I was like the only bilingual substitute who lived really close to this little town in Eastern Washington called Mattawa. It's like an hour from everywhere. And my wife and I lived there when we first started. And so I almost had to like ask for days off because I was a bilingual substitute teacher who lived really close. So I taught every subject area there is in K-12 education. And I had a blast. I love teaching. That's my thing. So yeah, so I've done pretty much, we've even done some homeschooling with our kids. And so I've done online education and regular education and hybrid education. I've done about any way you can slice it. I've probably done it. And so, but I love teaching. I love helping people figure things out. That's my background. So yeah.
Yeah, so your undergrad is in education. You have a master's in education and a master's in theology as well, and then you also have your doctorate too. So it's not like, so when you're coming to this as a person that knows it at least from the theoretical side, and you've done it practically in the classroom as well. So you're just not talking about as a parent that's helping teach your kids, but you've taught a lot of our kids, if you will.
Yeah.
So okay, cool. So you guys said that you're on lockdown, you're not even leaving the house. Are you guys doing the homeschooling thing too, like everybody else? Or have you guys done homeschooling in the past?
Yeah. So we are schooling from home, but we are really blessed. So our kids, they go to an international school here in Bolivia. So the main language the language of Bolivia is Spanish, but then they also have class in English. Most of their content is in English. They have Spanish as well. And they even have a little bit of Quechua, which is like the Inca language. And so they have like classes with that too, but they do it online with their professors. And so their teachers, and their teachers have been from my perspective as a parent and as an educator, I'm so excited for what they've been working so hard. They're using Google Meet, and they have a schedule set out. They have everything sent home. Before everything happened with COVID, they sent all their schoolwork home. They knew they were going to shut down. And so our kids have everything. And we have a big dining room table, and that is school. That is the school table all week long. And today is actually Labor Day in Bolivia, so we get a 3-day weekend. And so we clean it off for the weekend. Yeah. But yeah, it's messy in here and crazy. But we've also homeschooled our kids before. When our son was in second grade, he's in sixth grade now. But when he was in second grade, we travel a lot for what we do. Like, we don't just work in Bolivia. We work a lot in the rest of Latin America. And we had to travel so much that year that we decided to homeschool him. And otherwise, he was going to miss like over 2 months of school. And it was just going to be really rough. And we didn't want him to fall behind. And so my wife is an elementary teacher, and I was a high school teacher as well. And so we thought, hey, let's just do it. And it was tough. As a professional educator, I was joking, like, somebody's going to die. It was really tough. And so for parents who are actual, like, they homeschool normally, like, they're absolute heroes. And I have a lot of patience, because I think that, we're on lockdown too, and we're doing this. And yeah, I'm like, my son, he's already taking algebra. He's a really smart kid. And so, we're struggling through, having to do that. So if you have kids that are like in high school, middle school, and they're doing hard math, and you're a parent, you're struggling, hey, we're right there with you. And that's coming from a professional educator. And and sometimes they don't want to do it. Like, just because we're teachers doesn't mean that they love to learn. And so, but they're doing great. It's just that it's hard, and you don't get a break from your kids,
Yeah. We've been homeschooling our oldest for about 3 years now, and she just turned 9. So there's really nothing that's too difficult yet. I'm like, yeah, I'm crushing it with the math, but when she gets a little bit older, I don't know. And I was never a math guy. I was more of a social studies, history kind of guy. And, but it's been interesting. There's definitely been some challenges, at least that we faced. I know my wife, Jasmine, does most of the work, but, I jump in and help out as well. So you've talked about a lot of your traveling and stuff like that, and with your kids and trying to homeschooling them, and then also just being down there right now. What are some difficulties that you guys have faced as parents that are trying to educate? Maybe what are some of your successes as well?
So I think that one of the biggest difficulties that most parents face, even parents like you guys who do homeschooling, is that you don't get a break from your kids. and your kids don't get a break from you because sometimes they need it too. And so to build that into your schedule when it's just, and that's, I think, one of the biggest issues right now that we're facing. Like I was reading a thing yesterday. It was talking about how divorce rates and domestic violence and all these different things are spiking. And part of it is we have junk, we have issues. And when you don't get any type of an outlet or any break from that, it does cause problems. Now, no excuse for any of that, but I think that also deals with stress with your kids and you. And I think one of the other struggles is there's a lot of people who watch too much news, and you just need to turn it off because that stresses mom and dad out a lot, and they don't know when they're going back to work. And I know some people are really worried because many people have been furloughed or laid off. Mm-hmm. So those stresses a lot of times will carry over to your kids, and you have to learn to filter that. And so we have some friends that we talked to one time, and their kids were like all about the 6 feet away, stay 6 feet away. And they were kind of nervous. And like our kids don't even know about that because we try and filter them from a lot of those things. And so we're just like, hey, we're home and we're going to stay home until we're allowed to go out. So we're going to have fun, play in the backyard, things like that. And then even things that we've built in. My wife is amazing. I don't deserve her. And she plans all kinds of cool dates. Like we went on a date to Italy, or to Italy, to Paris. And so we set up the iPad and did like a VR tour, and she made a bunch of snacks, and we had music going, and the kids were like, and it was in the kitchen, and we're just like, we're not here. You cannot come in the kitchen. We're on a date. And like we even did one in the backyard, and we looked at the stars and had a blanket and candles, and it was just kind of nice. And the idea was it creates opportunities to have some distance a little bit. And the kids were like, hey, you can watch a movie. Hey, or we're going to go, and if you can ride a bike, go ride a bike and break up your day. And it allows the kids to have space, and it's not just in the house locked down together all the time, all day, every day, because that's a lot. And so I think that's where some of our successes have been, but that's also where a lot of the issues are, that I think that there's no separation. So you have to learn to create that and being creative. And honestly, Google it. There's so many great ideas out there, YouTube videos and things like that help.
Okay. Definitely. I think having breaks, it would be difficult if I was in your situation, not being able to actually leave the house. But I've definitely taken the kids away and given my wife a break, and vice versa. And we found that to be pretty helpful. And then, like you said, when this first started, we had like lunchtime. We set an Alexa timer, and that was workout time. And we did push-ups and sit-ups and squats in the room, like built-in PT, physical education and all that kind of stuff. So those are some things that we've done as well.
They say that
go ahead.
with stress levels as well. If you elevate, what is it? When we went through our training as missionaries, they used to do like this psych eval and things like that. And they said that we were always off the charts on stress levels because we move so much and we're in different cultures and language groups and all these different things that put stress on your family. And they said that one of the best ways that you can handle if people are like really stressing out and having issues like that, breaks are absolutely essential. Like think about this, even if kids are going to a traditional school, whether they're in elementary or high school, they're usually on a bell schedule. Like they do math for so long, then they switch it up, and then they have recess, and then the teacher gets a break, and the kids do too. And in high school, they go to different classes, and so their day is broken up. And that's exactly what we have to learn how to do and create structure. And if that was something I was going to say, if you don't have a structure, like we have a set time, school starting, we're doing these things. Yeah, there's flexibility, of course, but we're like, there are certain things throughout the day that really help with that, and planning that out. That really helps. But then also the idea of like when you were talking about doing PT, that's huge. I think it's the Surgeon General had an article that came out that said, if you elevate your heart rate, I don't know, to whatever level, basically put it in the cardio level, which is like, let's say it's like 115 beats a minute or something, like a light jog or just jumping around for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, it will lower your stress level by 80%. And we try and build things in. And sometimes my wife, even yesterday, she's like, I'm going walking, even though she wasn't supposed to. She's like, and we're just like, we got to get out of the house. And so there were things that we do, or we just work out in the backyard. And so like, and we incorporate the kids with it too and have fun. Like I'll do, arms or whatever. And so I have my 6-year-old daughter and I'm doing curls with her or something. And we just have fun together. That really helps a lot.
Okay. So shifting just a little bit, how have you guys incorporated everyday learning into your guys' family? Being on the road when you've done some of that traveling, and maybe even now, like how are you guys incorporating learning experiences that just aren't like, here's a book, start studying, start doing math?
Yeah, so we try and have fun with, like, we'll talk about different things. So everybody's probably doing a ton of baking. I think I probably gained 10 pounds or 5 pounds since we've been here. My wife is an amazing cook. And so, like, our son he's kind of moving past fractions, but he still uses them with other math now. And so we'll even use things like that when we're baking. So we broke our 1 cup and our 1/3 cup measuring cup. So we have a half and a fourth cup, and we can't go out to go shopping. And so we're like, okay, so what is 2/3 of a cup, but using a 1/2 and a 1/4? And so we have them like do things like that, and we try and figure it out together, and we'll incorporate. We're like, wait, if we have to do this and this, and so we'll like incorporate, hey, this is why math's important. Or we'll do things outside. We'll talk about life cycle things sometimes, and we just incorporate it into our conversations. When we travel, every 4 years, we go back to the U.S. and we fundraise. We have supporters that support us, and we have to travel a lot for that. We're usually back in the States for an entire year fundraising, and then we come back down here for 4 years. And so we travel. When we've seen, our kids have been to over half of the United States. Like, they've been to more than 25 states, and they're just little kids. And so there's a lot of road time. And we do things like with geography. My wife has this yarn she'll put all the way around the perimeter of the car, and we do a little cutout of our vehicle and our family picture, and we move it, and we have the cities. So they never say, are we there yet? We know how close we are to the destination for that day.
That's cool.
And so things like that, you try and have fun things that you incorporate into that. And so again, we're not experts in coming up with these ideas. A lot of these things my wife like finds on Pinterest or Google or things like that. And we say, hey, what are some fun things we can do and you just put it in there. And it just takes probably 15, 20 minutes. And there's a billion options out there. And so it doesn't mean that, like, if parents are thinking, well, I'm not a professional educator, I'm not this and I'm not that, that's fine. You don't have to be. And even your teachers, they're coming up with a lot of these ideas. They're going, oh, this is great because this connects with. And so I would suggest to parents who are struggling with that, I would suggest, okay, take a look at your kids' books or their online stuff that their teachers have sent home or whatever you're using for their material for learning. And then try and Google, how do you incorporate that into like everyday life? And literally Google that. And you will more than likely come up with stuff. And at the very least, that will spark maybe some inspiration to get started. And I think that just a little creativity and maybe a half an hour max of just like research on it, and you'll find stuff.
Okay. And this next question might tie into this a little bit. We talked about how to incorporate it and how to make learning fun with your kids. As you've worked with people that have had limited resources, I mean, you're helping parents and kids, as you mentioned, that have next to nothing. What kind of resources, or what would you suggest for parents that feel like they have no resources in educating their kids? Or at least, I mean, we're talking mostly to Americans, so they probably at least have the internet, hopefully, but even potentially not with that. What are some suggestions that maybe you would have in that situation?
Yeah, well, parents who don't have the internet probably aren't going to be watching this video. But,
that's true.
But if you are watching the video, you do have the internet, so there's that. Yeah, and a lot of people are in that kind of a situation. I think one of the biggest things is similar to what I just mentioned was, look at your kids' materials if that were sent home by their school, or I would contact your local school and see. So we have like my in-laws live up in Washington. They contacted their local school and they said, yeah, you can come down and check out a tablet. A lot of areas, I know that I think Comcast and some other areas were providing free internet during COVID, things like that. And so I would contact some of those resources first and see what you can get. So contact your local school, find out what you can get. And I even ask them and ask your neighbors, ask your family members and say, hey, do you know if these things are available to get access to free internet, to get access to, or at least really reduced internet, and get access to technology items, whether it's checking out a laptop from your local school or checking out a tablet. Most schools today have funding and you've paid for it with your taxes. So use that resource. But then other things that are super simple, so you can get access to the internet for that. But then some things that are super simple, like I mentioned, doing PE, and incorporate PE into your day, because that's just going to lower your stress level. That's going to lower your kids' stress level, and have fun. So we have an intern that works down here with us. And for my daughter's birthday yesterday, he did probably the best cardio workout I could think of. My wife took candies, little Bolivian candies that the kids love, and he became a human piñata for her birthday. And so she taped them to him. And the goal was the kids had to chase him in the backyard and try and grab the candy off him. They didn't beat him. but he's 19 years old. He's in great shape. And he was like breathing like he just ran a marathon. So I'm like, hey, that's a lot of fun. And it's doing education stuff, but then you can do other things. You can build in a science lesson to doing things like that, and you're having fun. And I think that even if you're not necessarily advancing in the biggest ways, you're not sitting there and you haven't figured out, I don't know, the how to solve cold fusion or whatever.
Right.
If you're having fun, if you're learning, that's probably one of the biggest things, and your kids will learn those skills better. And the thing about learning right now, don't feel like you have to get your kids to be able to like pass an AP exam or do something else. The idea is that they continue to work on expanding their brain, their understanding, things like that. That's going to help with them. And there's 3 things as an educator that I always incorporate into my classrooms, and I try to do it with my kids too. The 3 best ways you're going to learn things, and this is about brain research, how your mind works, and retention of information and skills. It's fear, it is fun, and it's weird. And if you can get those 3 things, fear, fun, and weird, into your learning, your kids will remember that forever. I have former students from 15 years ago who come up and remember a stupid song that I taught them senior year of high school, and it was like a nursery rhyme. But it helped them in their AP exams. It helped them in college and all these different things. And because it was weird and it was kind of silly. But because of that, your brain likes those things. Right. Your brain will remember things out of fear. If you had a traumatic experience, and I know you're a counselor, that's with you. That's in your long-term memory forever. Yeah. If you have, and I'm not saying scare your kids, so please don't.
You will learn this. No, not that kind of fear.
but like, for example, I would even funny things that are not like a lot more toned down. Every time I would give exams when I was a high school teacher, I would always come to school in a suit, and kids, it would scare them. They're like, and I'm going, no, it's not your class today. It's a different class. And they're like, they would always remember those types of things.
That's awesome.
It was just a little bit of fear. I would get on desks and we would sing songs and do chants like a kindergarten teacher. And by the way, the ABCs, think of this, it's 26 letters. They have nothing to do with each other, and everybody knows them in the same order perfectly without ever messing up, because we all learned them in a song. Kindergarten teachers are the best teachers out there, because it's just...
That reminds me of, like, we took a college class together at Peninsula College. It was like human anthropology or something like that. It was like the origins of man. Yeah. And we had a professor that was so fun. Like, I don't remember most of my undergrad professors, but he would get up on the desk and pretend he was a monkey.
Yes.
As a college professor, that stuff stuck with me. Like, and
that's exactly it. And I've used that in my teaching. He was a good teacher. He was the most boring class ever, and it was an 8 o'clock class. And so everybody was exhausted. Nobody wanted to be there. And when he jumps up on a desk, and I remember he said this too. He said, and this is like almost 20 years ago.
I know.
and he said, my goal in life, I can't believe I remember this. He says, my goal in life is I never wanted to be a college professor. I wanted to play a caveman on the History Channel. and I laughed so much, but because it was funny, and because he did that, it's for you and me. Here we are, years later, 2 decades later almost, and we remember that. And so if parents do those types of things too, you have fun as you learn. Your kids are going to remember it a lot more, and that's why even having games with that. And you can look, like, you're sitting there and you're struggling. My son was like dying trying to figure out how to do least common denominator, doing things with fractions. Literally, I YouTubed it, and there was a guy who did it as a game. 30 seconds. He didn't even finish the video. He's like, oh, this makes sense. And he just goes through it. I'm like, and I wasn't the teacher. And so take that stress off yourself. By the way, this is just a shameless plug, and he doesn't even know me. The guy that does Math Antics. If you're struggling with math, dude, the guy, it's silly, it's fun, and it's really, really easy to learn. Your kids will get it. So YouTube that guy. I don't even remember his name, but that's honestly for us as parents was a huge help, and they have fun.
Yeah, one thing that we do that I think has been helpful is we, anytime that something pops up, just to kind of incorporate in everyday learning, is I Google a cool video on YouTube, and we watch it for 5 minutes, kind of breaking up the monotony. Yeah. We've done like history stuff. There's a lot of good history shows on YouTube, just science stuff. Some of the things I've been doing with my kids too is we rebuilt a bike, and I was teaching my daughter about tools and the mechanics of the bike and how that works. And so there's little ways that you can teach stuff, even if you're not teaching math per se. You can still teach them usable skills that maybe they aren't getting other places. So,
and if parents have kids that are older, if they have if you have high schoolers, like you and I, we have small kids. Like our kids are elementary age, but like if you have kids who are in middle school and high school, you can even get more into it. Like if you like building a bike is a perfect example. And you can look at the diameter of gears, like the bigger gears
Right.
and the smaller gears and how that works and how resistance works. And like,
Right.
that's engineering. That's like actually
Right.
high level math. And they understand that concept, but you're having fun building a bike. And honestly, for those of you guys out here, if you know how to put a bike together, and if you don't, YouTube it, because YouTube, you can do anything. You can build a car out of
Right.
YouTube. But like we disassembled our Xbox and reassembled it because our son had busted the CD eject thing or whatever, and it was all out of YouTube. So if you don't feel like you're the most technical, you can do that. But it's even if you don't do it perfectly, your kids will forever remember that day that I built a bike when we had to stay at home with dad or mom
Right.
or whatever. Those types of things. You make it memorable, you make it fun, it will stay in their long-term memory. And honestly, they'll probably learn it better than if they were in a classroom.
Right. Yeah. So as you guys are watching this, at the end of the video, if you check the notes below, we'll have some different links to maybe some different YouTube videos for history, for math antics, just some other maybe options for maybe to incorporate into your life as you educate your kids at home. Jer, one other question I have is, how are you and your wife, you kind of hit on it a little bit, but how are you guys ensuring healthy boundaries between you working and your kids working? And then also maybe some self-care, how are you incorporating self-care in this as well?
Yeah. So if you're married, I'll talk about for married people, then I'll talk about for single people as well, because I know there's single parents out there as well. And that's important to understand. For married people, be patient. Don't take yourself too seriously, and say you're sorry a lot, because just being locked in the house, I know that's put a lot of stress on marriages. And then give your partner a break. So
Mhm.
my wife the other day, like I was up to here. I needed an outlet, and she's like, go get out of the house. And she kind of
Mhm.
kicked me out of the house in a nice way. And I just went for a walk, listened to a podcast. If there's
Mhm.
a podcast that, you like to listen to, I have several that I listen to, that just really help me relax, that help me tone down, that help me just kind of refocus. I pray. That's a huge thing. I know people like to meditate as well. Talk to God. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah.
he's not surprised by any of this. He's bigger than all of it. And so
Right.
those types of things. And then I also work out. And so, because that also helps lower your stress level. I don't remember the science behind all of that. That's not my thing, but I know that working out helps. And so even if it's just a jog, if it's a brisk walk, I go in the backyard, I put in my earbuds, and I just go to it, and I get a good sweat going. It's amazing. Even if you get a half an hour away or an hour away, and you give your
Right.
partner a break. Marge took the kids. That's my wife. And so she took the kids, and she was just like, hey, I got this. Don't worry about it. I came back. I was like a different person. And then the
Mhm.
other day, she's like, I'm going for a walk. I will see you later. And I'm like, go, just take care of it. And so things like that, or even if it's just as simple as I need to just chill, and I want to just scroll on social media. So I'm going to tune everybody out. I'm going to get on my phone or the tablet or whatever, and I'm going to go on social media, and I'm going to talk to my friends. My wife has a really cool, and again, talking to friends. Like, for those of you guys who don't know, Drew and I are lifelong friends. We talk probably almost every week. And we have another
Yeah.
friend as well. And having that outlet, investing in your friendship still is huge. So my wife has several friends. They do a Wednesday morning coffees, and they even had cake the other day. They all made cake, and they go up. My wife goes to the bedroom, and is not here. She went out to coffee virtually.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
they get on Zoom, and they talk together. So allowing your spouse to have that space that they can have a break, but then also your kids, where like Drew, you said you go and take your girls for a bike ride. That's huge, because if your wife is doing the lion's share of the homeschooling, she needs a
Mhm.
break, and
Right.
to allow you to do that. And then if you're a single, the same thing. Honestly, Disney Plus and Netflix have never been my best friends before ever. And so if it's as simple as putting a movie on, and you can go in the other room and have coffee, and you're a
Right.
single parent. My kids, they love to read. My son is an avid reader. Like, we just buy him tons of books, and he tears through them. And we're like, hey, we're going to set a timer on Alexa or on Siri or whatever. And I want you to read for the next half an hour. You would be
Mhm.
surprised, even a half an hour, what that will do for your emotional levels. And probably the biggest thing, stay off of the news. And don't think that social media news is real. Half of it is fake news and things like that. Because people who are watching it's really not about reporting news as much as it is about getting followers and subscriptions, and they
Right.
spatialize a lot of things. And so if you're watching the news, I'm not saying don't stay informed, but I'm saying people who are literally watching it 24/7, you're gonna drive yourself nuts. And
Right.
so just lower those types of things. Put on some easy listening music. For me, I even just something that's therapeutic. Two things that I love to do, even if it's as simple as I wash the dishes while I listen to a podcast, or I listen to some easy listening music while I mow the lawn, because I'm alone and I have that space. And if whatever it is as simple as just creating space, even if you're in the other room, it will really lower your stress levels and allows your kids to have that break too.
Right. Okay. So any final tips or advice that you want to give before we kind of wrap this thing up? I know people probably are trying to hurry up and get to teaching their kids here soon.
One last thing, I'll make it quick. Date your spouse. Still have dates. My wife is better than I am at it. We're working on trying to do it once a week. And so at some point during the week, and I need to stop because I'm working too. I'm continuing to work. I do distance education still. So I'm usually at the table at the same times as the kids, and I have to stop and then work with them. Sometimes I wanted to duct tape them and put them on the floor, and they're trying to be quiet even right now. But also taking time to date my spouse. So I'll stop, I'll research something, an idea. And again, it's as simple as candles and we even did it with the kids too. We did s'mores in the backyard. I downloaded a stargazing app and we looked at constellations in the backyard and laid in the backyard. It's as simple as doing a snowball fight with socks. Like you roll up socks in a ball and you have a snowball fight in the house. Things like that. You have fun things that you do. Our little trip to Paris that I mentioned, I did with my wife. Virtual tour, things like that. It still allows you to have time of intimacy together with your kids, but also with your partner. And so if you can do those things, it will really help your stress levels. And you will remember this horrible month of April that everybody has been in for COVID. Yeah. It will actually you have more fun memories than not. And that's a huge plus. So.
Yeah. One thing that we do as a couple is we do this thing. It's called question and answers. And it's 3 years of questions every day. And we do coffee and we read this and we do the questions and we read each other's questions and then we talk about them. And then the next year you're going to be doing the same questions. You get to see how much it's changed and all that stuff. And we have a morning coffee time where it's just us without the kids and where we really kind of invest in each other and just kind of have quiet time, read our Bibles and talk. And we've done some of the other stuff like kind of that you've mentioned. And I think that's been pretty helpful for us staying sane in this season.
That's huge. My wife and our names are Jeremiah and Marjorie. We have old people names, so we play an old people game. So we play cribbage. We always have. We grew up with our grandparents playing it, and we have coffee and we dream together. Hey, and the rule is we don't talk about work because we work together, and we don't talk about kids. And that's like the rules. Like we break the rules sometimes, but it's really cool for us to develop intimacy. And you even mentioned praying. I actually heard this from a marriage counselor the other day. The divorce rate for couples who actually sit down and take time to pray together is less than 1%. Pray with your spouse. Seriously. Yeah. If you're a person who prays, pray with them and pray for them. And not this, would you please give my husband patience or whatever? You please give my wife patience. But actually encouraging each other because it develops intimacy, not just on an emotional or physical level, but on your spiritual level as well, which is a huge thing. But think about that statistic, less than 1% of couples who pray together get divorced. Yeah, that is huge. So
yeah. So okay. Well, Jared, thank you for taking time out of your guys' day and coming to talk to us and kind of give us some tips and insights. Just want to say, man, I miss you and I love your family. You guys are doing awesome things and blessing a lot of lives down there. So keep up the good work. And like I said, everybody, we're going to have some resources for you down below in the notes. Make sure to check those out. If you like this stuff, make sure to subscribe. And also, if you think this is going to be helpful for you or maybe for someone else, make sure to share it. A lot of us are navigating this homeschooling thing for the first time, and this might be beneficial for others. So anyways, we'll see you guys next time. Jared, thanks for joining us. Love you, brother. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Bye. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the stuff that we learned today and some of the stuff that we talked about. I know I sure did, and I'm excited to implement some of it. Also, in the comments below, share some advice or tips that you have for enriching our families and our education experience with our kids. Lastly, share this because there's probably a lot of families out there that could use some of this advice. And let me know if you like this interview stuff because I could do some more of this stuff, or if you like the other types of videos, or if I should do both. Let me know about that in the comments too. And I will see you guys next time. God bless. Love you all. Hang in there. We'll get through this together.